Hi Ma, good morning. Welcome back for today's session. So in the last class we learned about two topics. One is how to frame a software team after designing step, and next is to frame a skeletal system. We learned what is the importance of the skeletal system before finalizing our architecture or design. So without skeletal system, if you directly give an input to the system, if there is any problem, if you didn't get an output perfectly, automatically we will be in a tense and we have to change total architecture with wasting of our time. Okay. So in order to work on that, we have to frame a skeletal system so that we can test our architecture or the design working properly or not. Right. So we learn about that. So we completed first part of the second unit now. Today we are going to start part 2 of unit 2. Okay. Small architectural styles. The concept is mainly architectural styles. Styles means not in terms of a graphical representation way style, but these are the things in which how to process the style of data, I can say. The style of data, just we can use a word called as the style of data. So what is the use of the data, how data is flowing? Okay, so we have to give input as a data, right? We have to get output as a data. We have to process the data, right? We have to process the data. We have to check the output in terms of a data. We have to test the data. So everything is for data only, right? Whatever design you are going to perform, whatever architecture you want to frame is nothing but to process on the data only. So these architectural styles explaining about regarding what are the styles you have to use in order to give priority to your data. So data you can't execute directly as a flow, but we should provide in terms of processing, in terms of input, in terms of output, in terms of presentation, in terms of testing. Right. So what are the methodologies we have or styles we have in order to justify your data, in order to present your data. So that is the theme of the today class. So our total topics in part 2 are pipes and filters, data abstraction, object-oriented organization, event-based implicit invocation, layered system, repositories and interpreters. If you read all these words one more time, surely you will have a glance about these words in previous subjects. All of you know about the pipes and filters in Unix. All of you know about these word object-oriented and data abstraction, OOPS concept, Java. All of you know about the event-based invocation, same programming concept to start any procedure. Layered system, in CN we got to continue to process your data from one user to another user. Repositories to store your data, and finally interpreters to convert your data from one form to another. Right. So all these we need. What is the use of this all concept, ma? If you observe, it is to give importance to the data only. It is to give importance to the data only. How to filter, how to highlight your data, how to activate your data, how to forward your data, how to store your data, how to convert your data. Right. So these are nothing but, so this part going to give a small topics. These are all small topics, introductory topics. So let us start our topic called as a pipes and filter. So before that, I want to give a small introduction regarding what is architectural styles. The main theme of this architectural style is containing two parts. These two parts. One is a component, one is a connector. Okay, as we have a design or architecture in terms of different modules, each module we can consider as a one component. In order to connect this component, we need connectors, right? So in order to connect these components, we need connectors. So how these modules or components are going to be presented, what are the connectors for these modules, and third part is the last part is the constraints. Without constraint, the data flow will not occur in any system. For example, you are taking input data. What type of data you want to take input? Integer, character, float, date, what? There is a constraint based upon your requirement or the application, right? So what is the application and what is your requirement? You are going to deal in this. See this. In architectural style determines the vocabulary of components and characters. So we are going to use different words for components and characters. But the theme is the same. Maybe you are going to use different words, okay? That can be used in instances of that style together with a set of constraints on how they can be combined. So a simple architectural style is a combination of these three words. Make two components, components and characters. Okay. Finally, constraints. So these can include topological constraints on architectural descriptions. Topological constraints with the order of flow. The order of flow of data. It is surely there is a need here. So for example, you want to go data from left to right or right to left, top to bottom, bottom to top, with cycles or without cycles. Possibility is there. Okay, we have to check that. Next, the software that is built for computer-based system exhibit one of the many architectural styles. Obviously, any system, any computer software, nothing but the combination of one of the style, whatever it is. Okay, each style describes system category that encompasses. So each style describes a system category. What it contains? It encompasses again component types to perform functions, set of characters, or what are the characters if you observe here? Character means calling, receiving, subfunctions, right? Subfunctions call, remote procedure call, data stream, socket. These are all our characters, right? That enable communication, coordination, and cooperation among components. So without this, can able to communicate two modules, two components, a subroutine, remote procedure call, data stream, or socket? Can you do? No work we can do. Okay, so that's why we have to give priority to these two categories. One is a component, one is a characters. The component is our module which is going to execute our code. The character is the one which is passing and receiving our data. Right, and we have a similar constraints also as I said previously. And topological layout. Finally, these two are not that much important, but our unit 2 part 2 is concentrating on first two only, characters and components and connectors. Okay, so these are the categories, total categories of architectural styles. So each we have a lot of independent components. So any independent component are mainly used for one is the communication, one is to perform some event. The communication may be in terms of client or peer-to-peer. The event may be implicit. Internally it is going to be activating automatically or externally invocating. Data flow. If you want to do a flow of your data you want to check. That can be either sequential one or pipe and filter. Pipe and filter is, the pipe is nothing but which will transfer your data to the filter. Okay, of course we will discuss our topic, next topic. Data center. Data center means how are you going to store your data, repository or blackboard. Virtual machines, how you are going to be interpreting your data from one form to another. Because in virtual machines, the original hardware is going to use, but representing another operating system. How? Okay, that is available in the GCC subject, right? So interpreter and rule-based system, how you are going to be interpreting your data or converting from one form to another. Call and subroutines, main program and subroutines, layered or remote procedure call or object oriented. So these are nothing but different styles of your architecture. See, without this, no data can flow. If you observe, everything is for data only. Communication is for data transfer, event is to execute, data flow to flow of data either sequentially or parallelly. It is nothing but the data store. It is nothing but a form, converting one form of data to another. It is nothing but to transfer your data from one methodology to another methodology. Pipe and filters. So our first topic is the pipe and filters, very important. If you observe this diagram, we have a pipe. What is a pipe, which gives input to the filter. Filter is the one which is surely not filter total data, but it selects some data, depends upon your requirement and the constraints. it processes some data and gives it output to the pipe again. So the pipe is a mediator or the connector which takes input, which gives output. 2. Which gives input to filter, which takes output from filter. Okay. So here the filter is the one which process based upon your requirement. A function, a program, methodology, process, subroutine, module, whatever it is. You can use any synonym words. See another picture I found from internet. So the pump is the one, the algorithm by which the process will start of application. Okay. See, pump will give some input to the pipe, means it will transfer, it will initiate the data transferring. Okay. The pipe will take the data and transfer to the filter. The filter will process some data, give some output to pipes. The pipes may be 1 or 2. If you observe Hadoop file system, the pipe is nothing but the collection of input-output connectors. It is not a single line, but it is a multiple line. Because the data is chunked into number of blocks. Each block have to executed by one processor. So automatically we have to assign our output or input to n number of pipes, but not this single pipe like this. Okay. One more diagram I found. If you observe this, yes, the pump will inject some information, or the algorithm will inject some information to the pipe. The pipe will give the same input to the filter. The filter will process the data, gives output to the pipe. The same steps will repeat till the output is going to reach to the sink. Sink is the destination. Okay. So what it is going to do? It is it is doing series of independent computations to be performed on data. Based upon your application, series of computations are performing. Okay. Right. So in a pipe and filter style, each component has a set of inputs and set of outputs. Here what is the component mark? It is a filter here. Each filter have inputs and each filter have outputs. Here the component is filter. A component reads streams of data on its input. Of course, the filter reads the data, the filter will gives its output or produces an output. Okay. So how it is going to be? It is taking from non-local data, but internally we have a local file system where we can store our data in our required format based upon the application. There you can store your data and process your data and gives output. Okay. If it is so, then it is called as a filter. Hence components are termed as filters. Okay. So the connectors, next coming to the connectors of this style serve as conducts for the stream, the receivers and senders. Conducts means receiver and senders, transmitting outputs of one filter to inputs of another. It is doing the same. So there is a module, one more module, there is a connector between this. What it is going to do? It is taking output of one module, giving as input to another module or another filter. Right. So that is the work of the connector. So it is called as a pipe. There is a pipe connection, connectivity is there. So this is one example for the pipe. See here. So this is our computation filter. It is a filter, and these lines are called pipes. Okay. So one more diagram I found. So these rectangle boxes are called the filters, and these lines are called the pipes. Okay. So examples of pipe and filter architectures which we are using in our daily routine software process. See this, Unix shells. If you observe Unix programs previously, there is a built-in methods pipe and filters to take input and to give output also. Okay. And pipelining systems. Pipeline means parallel processing. We can give data to the parallel processors, we can get the output. Okay. Next, if you observe the compiler design concept in a hierarchical manner, whenever the data is read by the main theme, that is lexical analyzer, the output of lexical analyzer is feeding to the parser, again output of parser to semantic analysis, later to code generation. The sequence will continue. So between these we have a pipes, and these are called filters. Each module called as lexical analysis or parser or code generation called as a filters, because they are doing some processing and giving some output to us, right? Where we can do signal processing also. Based upon the input we have taken from the sensor in terms of pipe, it is going to the filter, will do some process and give some output. Signal processing. Functional programming. Yes, every function will exchange some data based upon their requirement, right? If one architecture is divided in terms of different sub-functions, they used to communicate with each other with help of the pipes and filters only. And finally, distributed system. Yes. Physically, they are at the different places dispersed, but logically they should be they are at one place. Okay, logically. But how they can do? So this is nothing but communicating in terms of logical systems, transmitting your request, receiving your output. Right now, pipes and filters invariants similar to. What are the main features which makes these pipes and filters distinguish from others? These are all the independent entities. So every module has its own processor. Every module has its own processor, has its own functionality. We know about this. They should not share state with other filters. Of course, state we should not share, but data can share. No need to share data. No program will share their state, but they will share the data. Okay, they can exchange the data. Right. Filters do not know the identity of their upstream and downstream filters. Do you know that? No, we don't know. So no module or no component don't know about the your previous or next or neighbor components. This is us. We know all the information. We use to collaborate all the modules. Specification might restrict what appears on input pipes, the result that appears on the output pipes. Of course. Okay, the pipes whatever taking from one module may not be same as the other module. It depends upon the constraints we have on the functionality of any module. Right, okay. So correctness very important. The correctness is very important, ma, because without correctness, what is the use of your filter? Right, the correctness is nothing but the order in which we give input to the filter and the way you process your output. Okay, so these features makes these pipes and filters different from others. How? Because they have independent entities, they don't share state, and they don't know about the other modules information. Specification might restrict. See, if you have objects, the objects have same syntax and semantics. Okay, they can share, they know each other, but here they can't possible. Okay. Right, pipes and filters advantages. We have lot of advantages because they are very easy to understand. They support multiple number of times usage. It can be easily maintained, enhanced. Specialized analysis such as throughput and deadlock analysis. Throughput and deadlock analysis they can do. Okay, and support concurrent execution, of course, because each module don't know about the other modules. We can perform concurrent execution also. There is no dependency on each other. Right. Coming to the disadvantages, we have so 2 or 3 disadvantages. No? Not good choice for interactive systems. Why it is not a good choice? The interactive systems means online. The stream that is the online data may be any type we are receiving. So we should be in a position to accept any type, and we have to execute that data without any ambiguity or any compatibility problems. But here we can't possible with these pipes and filters. Okay. So excessive parsing and unparsing leads to loss. What is a parsing is verifying your syntax and semantics. Okay. So if the syntax and semantics is not suitable for your data, automatically we have to take one more middle person. It is not possible. So that the author is saying that excessive parsing and unparsing, converting from one form to another, is very time wasting time. It will prove as a complexity in writing filters on themselves, which gives the less performance also. See, we have 2 persons, A and B. If those are communicating with each other in terms of a single language, Telugu, Hindi, English, they can easily communicate and they can share, they can present what they want to present. But one is a Marathi, one is a French person. How can they communicate? Surely we need a mediator. Finding a mediator is tough. Who knows the Marathi and the French? And moreover, exactly conversion from one language to another is also very tough. So here also the filters, how you process your data is going to be not the same from one language or another language. We can't compensate different type of filters at one place. Okay, so that is a drawback. Okay, ma. So that is about the 2.5. That is our filters and what is this? Filters and types. It's a very small topic, ma. Data abstraction and object-oriented organization. If you clearly understood, if you surely remember about your OOPS concept, the first and foremost word features of an OOPS comes under buzzwords, I can say. The buzzwords of OOPS are, one word is a data abstraction, one word is a object-oriented. Right? What is the data abstraction, ma? Hiding the internal concepts and giving main concepts to you without going very in detail concept. Okay, see what it is a very small topic. I will continue here only. It is suitable for applications in which central issue is identifying and protecting related bodies of information. See, why are you using OOPS? One of the main concept, because we can protect our data. Even though we are creating n number of objects for the same class, the data is going to be protected because we have three data sharing methods. One is a public, private and protected. If you don't want to share your data to anybody, that is your wish. But in the C language, automatically any function can view any function data. There is no hiding and there is no secrecy. Okay, so that concept can be overcome from this OOPS. See, data representation and their associated operations are encapsulated in a abstract data type. What is a abstract data type? Name? Class. The class, what is a class, ma? On what data you want to perform, how you are going to perform. The data and its functions are packed up in one place in terms of encapsulation, called as a class. So representing your data in terms of a class is called as abstraction or abstract data type. Okay, see here, see, for any style we have two methods. One is the components, next one is the characters. Here the components are our objects, the class objects. Who are the characters then? Function calls. Okay, see this. The characters are functions and procedures, invocation methods. Who are the components? Our objects. Okay, our characters are functions and procedure invocations. Representation of abstract data type and objects. This small diagram I found, ma. See, if you observe here, we have some objects, different type of objects. Okay, different type. If you observe the shape, they are resembling the same automatically because they are similar to some one class. Okay, so if you want to communicate from one object to another, we need some operators and operations. So these are nothing but the operators and operations. Who is the OBJ here? OBJ is nothing but our manager. Operation is the invocator. The OBJ is nothing but the component to execute, who will dictate this one have to perform. Who is the operator here? Invocation, who will obey the instructions of the manager. Okay. So object oriented invariance means how it is going to differ from other. The objects are responsible for preserving the integrity. What is integrity, Tima? Without changing the concept is called as integrity. Without changing the concept is called as integrity. Okay. So the main concept of OOPS is not to change our data at any cost. Based upon your interest only, the data may be public or protected or private. Okay. Automatically no methodology can change your data by calling or by invocating. Okay. The data representation is hidden from other objects. Yes, I am repeating. Now, variant first, client server. The client, what is the communication between the client and server? The client is a requester who will request some service to the server. Okay, the server will respond to the client's request based upon his concept. If there is availability of data and the processing, okay, the client will wait until the server have to respond. If the server is not able to respond properly, the client will be indefinite waiting only. Okay, that is a big issue in our concept. See this. We have a server, okay, we have a clients. So every server and the client is going to be communicating with the help of a method invocation or invocation method. Who will invocate this? The client itself. The client have to find out the server IP address in terms of socket address. Okay, socket. If you remember what is the socket address, ma? 48-bit, 32-bit plus 16. What is the 32-bit address? IP address. What is 16? Port number based upon your application. What is the port numbers? Based upon your application, we are going to assign some numbers for FTP 25, for FTP 23, SMTP 25, Telnet 80. So like this, we have different application, different socket IDs. Okay, so those socket IDs in terms of IP come your what is your application ID? They are going to indicate our server. But the server have to be get ready. It have to intimate that I am ready, and the client have to search for the server. Later it is going to make a request to the server. So that are the issues we have in this, right? So the properties here, sorry, okay. So it is special case of previous pattern object oriented architecture. Yes, client server is nothing but the object oriented concept only. One is going to be invocate another. Directly it can't able to share data directly without like a friends. Okay, clients do not need to know about one another. There is no need to. They have to know about the server only. Okay, client objects must know the identity of the server. That is a disadvantage with this. So in order to overcome this, because the client have to wait indefinitely to the server for the availability of the server. If the server is not available, what happens? The client have to sit like this and have to wait for an infinite time. Okay. So in order to overcome that, we have a one more invariant, that is a different concept in the OOPS, called as a broker. Who is the broker always? The broker is a person who will take care of two different persons' requirements. Okay, any person requirement, he will take care of all the information they require. He will share. Okay, so he is a mediator between the client and the server. Let us see. See, if you observe here, we have a broker who is a mediator between the client and server. The advantage is the broker will intimate about the server to the client. Their server is busy now. You no need to wait. I will intimate you whenever the server is available to you. Okay, the client said okay, and the client will save some time. But what is the main drawback in this? The drawback is if the broker has been hanged, if the broker is not responding, what happens? Finish. The client have to wait indefinitely even the server is available, because it is depends upon the broker and broker is not responding. That's the main drawback with this concept. Okay, see this. Interesting properties. Adds a broker between the client and servers. Yes, clients no longer need to know which server they are using. Can you have many brokers and many servers? No problem. But the drawback is, see this. Broker can become a bottleneck, degraded performance. That is the main drawback. Okay, now. So these are nothing but different styles. In the first style we learn about pipes and filters. In the next style we learn about objects concept in terms of data abstraction to communicate between two different components. There can be client or server or filters. Okay, now. So that is about okay, this topic. Coming to the advantage, we have a lot of advantages with the object oriented concept. So it is not we can change your code without affecting another, because based upon your request only we can change the other data, right? If you are accepting any person to change your data, then only it is possible. Otherwise, there is no connection between you and other person. So automatically you can change your data as whatever you want. Can design systems as a collection of autonomous interacting agents. Yes, autonomous means autonomous. Autonomous means who can change its data automatically, depends upon his requirement, is called as a autonomous. Okay, right. Disadvantages. So what are the main disadvantage? We know about the identity. If you want to interact, we have to search that, we have to take a permission. That's the main issue. Next, it is contrast with the pipes and filters. In pipes and filters, there is no restrictions to access your data, right? And there is no need to perform operations and data at the one place. We don't need to encapsulate both data and the operations at one place in pipes and filters. Okay. Next, when the identity of an object changes, it is necessary to modify all object that invoke it. Yes, obviously, because one is dependent on another, the same object. If it is so, we have to change it, right? And objects cause side effects problem. See, A and B both use object C, then B's effects on C automatically. If there is any dependency one another, there is a side effect. So, for example, 10 people are based upon one broker. If there is any problem with the broker, the 10% will suffer. Okay, so that is the main drawbacks of this object oriented concept or architectural style. Okay, ma? Right. So I will wind up this topic for today. In the next topic, we are going to learn about event based invocation method. So very easy also. Right, ma? Bye now.